I talk about blocks all the time. What we want to do is go back and see, where did that start? Where did that mistrust start? Who gave that to you? Because we are born of the light. We are the light. We were told we were something separate. We were just taught that as human beings. If we lean back into the truth of our souls, then we know we are absolutely able to make connection, and that this is something that it's an innate ability that we were all born with.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Messages from Beyond. I'm your host, Orly Alteras. Join me as we decipher signs, synchronicity, and the language of spirit. Let's begin. Hi, MaryAnn.
Hi, Orly.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I'm so excited to have you here. I just thinking about for myself this whole journey of discovery. You've been such a big part of that journey for me. You've been a true teacher. I've learned so much from you. I'm saying this from the deepest part of my heart. You've made me realize, just come home to who I am, to
Hmm.
understand how the language of spirit works. And it's been such a huge part in me being able to just come out, be who I am, share myself with others in the world. And so I just wanted to start off by saying thank you.
Oh, it's an honor. It's an honor. I can only show you and tell you and teach what spirit is bringing forth, but you yourself have said yes. And so I'm incredibly honored and proud of you. And I think it's great. So thanks for trusting me.
Yeah. I don't want to cry, but it's very meaningful.
Aw.
I read your book. I first came across you obviously scrolling in the middle of the night and coming across a video, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I think this is my teacher." And
Oh,
then when I immediately went in and saw your course, it was you would just open up the course. So it was all divine timing, and I think that's part of the way that we know we're guided, that there's this flow, and I just felt very in that moment, like, God is guiding me, and
yeah.
yeah.
And they'll do that. Your spirit guides and source, they'll get right in your face where it's so obvious. But
Right,
again, you said yes.
and the paying attention.
That's right. That's right.
Just to start off, I did write some questions, but I do want the conversation to be also a flow of just any questions that come up in the moment.
Okay.
But I wanted to hear, obviously, I know, but for other listeners, what was your first kind of mystical experience where you realized that there
Hmm.
is more to life than meets the eye, that there is something here beyond our physical reality? Do you remember a specific moment, or was it
Sure.
yeah.
I grew up with this being a very open topic in my household, but not influential, if that makes any sense. I started seeing and hearing spirit at a very early age, but I don't think that because my mom was so open that I was influenced. There wasn't any type of pressure. It just came naturally. And some of the earliest memories that I have are very vivid dreams of loved ones that had passed, knowing that there is a presence. And sometimes that actually was very uncomfortable. I talk about in my first book, I talk about seeing very scary energy as a young child. I think it was about 9. It got my attention. I wound up seeing things and feeling things that were a little bit shocking. Prediction. I talk about seeing death on somebody before they passed. These things were meant to get my attention. And so they're burned in my brain. I don't know that I can say there was one specific moment at a first moment, but I can tell you there was a collective energy of experiences where they were like, pay attention to this.
Right.
This is going to be a thing. And so I did. Just,
Amazing.
yeah.
I think that when also reading your book, for me, what was so is, oh my gosh, I know what you're talking about. Oh my gosh, I've had the same thing where realizations from early on. Oh, I wasn't just at night running to my room, closing the door, because feeling some kind of energy behind me. That's probably was some kind of energy there. Looking,
Sure. Yeah. When I started to do this work, it also taught me where I wanted my boundaries to be. Very important, because I saw some things that I didn't want to see. I didn't want to be running from energy. And so it created this moment where I can have wonderful conversation with my spirit guides and saying, ew, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. Or, yeah, show me more of what that experience is like. And yeah, I'm glad. I hear that from a lot of psychic mediums that there's this normalcy in the experience that I had. And I think and so it validates for them their own experiences. And I think it's just because it was always presented to me in a really normal way. I didn't think it was weird, usual, you know.
Yeah. In terms of the different ways we can, so for me, it was right, this awareness that I'm actually receiving information, of starting to discern between my own thoughts and what is actually a place that's bringing me guidance. And so I'm wondering if you could go into a little bit how we receive divine guidance. I know
Hmm.
there are different ways, but just for the listeners, we'll start with that, I think, of how we receive guidance from beyond, from above, from spirit, from loved ones.
I think the first thing that changed my whole experience in how I can finally understand what I was hearing and seeing and feeling my whole life was that spirit comes in your own voice initially and early on, especially. And I used to think it was something outside of myself. And so I teach my students remember that spirit is within you. It's something that your guides are accessing this voice for you. They're showing you what it sounds like and what it feels like and what it excuse me, and what it might even taste like. You want to use all of your clairs, your claircognizance, your clairvoyancy, your clairaudient. So I learned that I had to use all of my senses to connect with spirit. I had to be very open to the fact that they would show me the next steps in my connection with them too, understanding energy and learning and taking classes and all the things. At its rawest form, it was very much just understanding that our guides, higher source, they are accessing our inner knowing. And the inner knowing sounds very much like us, ourselves. It's a small, quiet, sometimes loud, depending on who you are and what they're trying to say. But it is this inner voice that can lend incredible guidance in your life. So there's many different ways to make that connection and recognize what it sounds like. But for the basics for me are knowing what your inner voice is starting to sound like, paying attention to that quiet voice in the inner ear, paying attention to all your clairs, learn the clairs. I write about that in the book. And then, of course, trusting the process. Because I hear a lot of students say, I can see things, but I don't hear anything. It's okay. Let it all unfold. They'll show you in due time how to become very proficient in your abilities. And it's a great process. You don't want to skip anything. It's fun.
Yeah, it's really great. I think for me, what's been still a question, and I wanted to ask you as well. You were the first one who made me realize that, like, they use our intuition to relay messages. And then that's been me in trying to understand, okay, I have my intuition. I'm learning now what my own intuition sounds like. To me, it sounds like a very soft whisper of my
Mm.
internal voice saying simple things like go sit on the bench. And from there, these magical things happen. But it's almost, I find it almost easier. So I'll split the question in two and then I'll go into the second part. But for you, what is the difference between, I'm trying to, I'll say the whole thing and then we'll see how to break it down. But when I receive messages for other people, it's almost easier for me because I receive it like through imagery in my mind's eye. I'm getting the imagery, right? I can hear the loved ones who pass whisper their names sometimes. I get the feeling, I get it all. I can totally decipher their language. But when it comes to myself and my own guidance that is there to come for me, it's a little more difficult. I'm like, why can't you show me in my mind's eye something for me?
Well, we would be skipping the work if that happened. We'd be skipping the human experience. And the human experience is cryptic. We have to be able to accept the fact that when we are opening up to spirit for our own guidance, that there's a level of figuring it out that's different than when we're giving messages to others. Giving
Mm,
messages to others, also, you're getting that validation back. Hey, I see your grandmother Rose there and she's saying this. And the person's, oh, yes, my grandmother's name was Rose. This is,
right.
we can't validate what it is that we're trying to figure out. We just have to trust that we are being shown the breadcrumbs that we need to take in order to work our way through our lives. That's about guidance. Connecting to our loved ones is very different. We can all connect to our own loved ones. And we just have to trust that when we feel like Grandma Rose is next to us, that she is in fact next to us and that we can have a conversation with her, whether it be through meditation or just talking to her the way I'm speaking to you now. I love the word discernment because I'm a little funny with that word. As a psychic medium, I am hearing my own memories and my own thoughts in order to deliver message over. I want to be able to use things from my physical world because they become a frame of reference. I put a post up not that long ago about hearing guidance or something like that. And someone had said, I meant to comment back. Someone had mentioned something about understanding what's your own voice or your own thoughts, but your own voice and your own thoughts can be a really powerful tool in order for you to hear guidance, not only for self and for others. So I always tell people memories that pop into your mind, moments in your life, certain words, names, dates, it all comes into play when you're making connection. And that can help in your own validation as well. But Orly, you can always ask for signs.
Right.
We
But
have our tools. Yeah, we have our tools. So the thing is that when you ask for a sign, set it and forget it. And when you receive the sign, don't keep asking
right.
because then we're not trusting them. But I don't know. I don't think there's anything. That's a tough one because it's our lives. We want to have affirming and validation for ourselves too. We're on this flying school here where we have this
Right.
big rock. So we have to do some work, but work with
Yeah.
signs and symbols and write it out and pull your cards.
Yeah.
That's a great ways to get validation.
Thank you. I think I love the automatic writing that you
Mhm.
had. I think when I first realized, okay, going into meditation and automatically writing the answer, for me, it's actually the first time I was able to speak to my guides. Because
Mm.
even when starting out, I was like, okay, I guess I have guides, but I haven't met them yet. And through automatic writing, it was one way that I experienced how to have a conversation with them. So I love that you write about that in the book.
Mm.
Do you have
It's a
any
powerful tool.
yeah, any
Yeah.
other, I mean, there's so many ways for us to connect and just be able to tune in to this place where we're listening, right, to
Mhm.
receive. Can you give a few of those?
Yeah.
Um,
I think you have to first start off with the belief system that you can.
yeah,
Remember your mindset because your earthly self wants to get in there and say, "Are you crazy? You're not talking to anybody."
right,
Just answer. Just answer. Okay, let's just put that aside for a sec and let's just say, yes, I can make connection. So belief system's a really big thing. Then I would tell your listeners to open up to anything that feels cathartic and spiritual to you, anything that relaxes the stress, relaxes the anxiety in your life, whether it's automatic writing, regular straight up journaling, there is a difference, or listening to music, taking a walk, meditating. There's so many ways that we can quiet the earthly self and allow the clarity of connection to spirit to come through. Your spirit, you're asking your spiritual body to step forward, and we're asking the physical self to step aside for a minute so that we can hear and receive with more clarity. My biggest advice is not so much, there's many methods, and I write about them in the book, but my biggest advice is to make it authentic to you. And I think we're so inundated at what somebody else's spiritual practice looks like that I would say, and I learned this for myself, you don't need to do it the way your neighbor's doing it. Do it the way it feels good to you, whether it's art, music, taking a run, lifting weights. I don't really care. As long as it's something that frees your mind for a moment, gives you a different type of focus so that you can clear out that fog and hear them. And then we go back to the clairs. Use all of the senses, your claircognizance, your intuition, all of it in order to receive that message. We're not reaching for anything. We are just receiving, and that should take the pressure off. A lot of people think we're supposed to be reaching to hear that messaging, raise our vibration, reach. But we just want to receive. We want to allow it to be downloaded into us.
yeah,
And the more you practice that consistently, the more you'll get proficient at it and really good at it and trust it even
yeah.
more. Because the validations are crazy, as you all know.
You
Spirit really
know,
starts to show off.
I think one of the things, because I wanted to talk about faith, right, and trust. With trust, this is something that I still go through. It's like, how much more validation can you get? Seriously, even in I keep getting validation, but for whatever reason, I tend to go back to the human self of no, maybe it's a coincidence. Like the mind can play games, and you have such a strong trust in spirit. I guess it's also working so many years. Do you have anything in building that trust even more?
Yeah,
And
I do. I do. It takes a little bit of self work to understand why you're not allowing yourself to trust because ultimately it's on us, the accountability of these blocks. And we all have blocks, whether it's not trusting, fear, doubt. There's a slew of them. I talk about blocks all the time. What we want to do is go back and see where did that start? Where did that mistrust start? Who gave that to you? Because we are born of the light. We are the light. We were told we were something separate. We were just taught that as human beings. If we lean back into the truth of our souls, then we know we are absolutely able to make connection, and that this is something that it's an innate ability that we were all born with. However, we have a tendency to go back to that comfortable narrative. Usually it's because we're trying to keep ourselves safe. The ego wants to come in there and keep us safe from disappointment. What if I believe and then it turns out to be a disappointment? Am I reading you, Orly? What if I believe? I'm reading, Orly. That's what it's all about. And that's when we go back into that human self-guidance again. We really have to understand these blocks. They're part of our lessons. They're part of our soul contracts. It doesn't mean they're not going to show up again and again. I think people think, I did the work, that shouldn't show up anymore. It's going to show up. When it shows up, however, and you're understanding the place of origin, who gave it to you, why it started in the first place, and you work through that part of it, we answer quickly. We answer more quick. We answer faster, right? We get to that point of healing faster. So it no longer is it like, oh, I don't know if I'm even hearing them. This is ridiculous. And that can go on for days.
Like what you're saying, sorry to stop you, just so I don't
No, go ahead.
It's like you stop it in the moment, remember what you just said, and then
Yes.
can come back quickly.
That's right. You edit it in real time. So instead of it going on for days, and I've had these experiences too, you're not alone. I speak from experience.
Okay.
You learn, oh, this is just, I'm being activated because this is what went on when I was 6 or 7 or whatever. You know, this is because so-and-so in high school told me I sucked or whatever. You can go back and all these things. And then, oh, that's because I write a lot about being competitive for many years. Oh, that's because I was put in competitive situations, but that's not the real story of who I am. That was just a moment. And so then you answer with the higher source, higher self, love. I am worthy. All is well. There's room for all. I can give, and it is important what I do. It doesn't matter. Judgment doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what other people think. That's their business, not really mine, right? There's tons of them, and I'm sure they're all hitting home. This is something I think that we all experience at some point. Some are just better at it than others because they're learning how to, again, deal with it in a different way, more productive way. This makes nothing wasted. So even your feelings that feel like they're lower vibration feelings become productive because we're diving in deep and getting to learn more about ourselves. Right. You really get to know yourself when you start to do a little bit of a deep dive. And that's really all it is. You just have to learn where that mistrust is coming from. Why do you think you're not capable of worthy or of doing it? You can receive all the validation in the world from a sitter, the person that you're reading. But if you yourself don't believe it, you will always crave that validation. It's nice to receive the validation, but we don't want to have a need for it. We want to just continue to be able to just say, nope, I trust my work and I trust my abilities.
Yeah.
And everyone who's listening, Orly is a brilliant reader. So every time she does this, I'm always like, well, you know what you're doing, but I understand. I've been there.
Yeah.
I have been there. Yep.
It's truly developed over time, because if at first, for example, I was receiving just imagery and putting 2 and 2 together to understand the message, it's now at a place, I'm just sharing, MaryAnn, because we haven't spoken also in a while.
Yeah.
It's at a place where if I'm really in trust and releasing ego, we'll talk about that in a minute. If I'm really in a place of just, I'm listening, you guide me. Sometimes I feel them so clearly that I just know what they're saying. They feel so close. I just interpret everything. Sometimes it's not, it could, and then I'm also thinking it's a learning process. I feel like the more you practice in anything, the better you get at it, and it just grows.
Yeah, you learn how to adjust that vibration. You learn how to adjust your frequency, because remember, not only are you tapping into different personalities on the other side, different guides with different frequencies and energies, but you are also, if you're reading somebody, is what we're talking about, you are also tapping into their energy. And we have to remember that they might be carrying heavy grief. They might be depressed. They might be yearning for something, or they could be really excited and very open. They might be a skeptic. They might be like, prove it. I have no belief and I don't even know what I'm doing here, right? We have to learn, and spirit will guide you there to adjust that frequency. And so that's where you learn that bouncing around of understanding what's going on in the room. You read the room, and then you start to, how spirit will show you how to navigate that in order to receive clearer messages. Also, Orly, this is such a good conversation. Also, we have to remember that not all energy comes in the same way. And I have really no explanation
Mm,
for that. Some energies are really good at using your clairvoyancy. Others are really good at
right.
speaking to you. Others are good at making you feel things. Sometimes there's just so much energy in the room. They're all using different things to get to you because they know that they can then, you then can discern the difference between each spirit that you're speaking to. So it
Yeah. But do
becomes,
you
it's
think
really fun, actually.
yeah.
That's the fun part, is learning all of that. I have to say, I love that part.
Yeah. Do you think, because now it's making me think for a second, I know, okay, so now we're like going off a
Are
little
we
bit
going
on
down a
this.
rabbit hole?
Yeah. But just in terms of sometimes a loved one who comes through, is it also their way of communicating? It's easier for them to send the message through imagery. They're also trying to figure out the way to communicate. Sometimes
What
our
if you have two energies in the room, and you have a grandmother and a grandfather, let's say,
Mhm.
and the grandfather is just talking up a storm and showing you everything, right? And you might say to your, and you should actually say to your sitter, wow, your grandfather is quite the chatterbox. And he wanted to make himself known. He wants it to be known
Mm,
that he's the first in the room. 9 out of 10 times, that person's going to say, yep, that was his personality. And
right.
if the grandmother is holding back, and maybe we see her, she's very quiet. I'm not getting a lot from her. We want to describe these things because that person go, yeah, she didn't really say much. He wasn't
Right.
really a talker. So I learned to say everything that I see, hear, and feel, even what I'm struggling with in the room, really struggling to hear so and so, or I'm really, boy, this is confusing me, because it adds to the reading. That's where that discernment comes in.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, no, say everything that you're thinking. Even if it's, I don't know, all of a sudden they're showing me my family vacation at the lake house. Yeah, go there. We used to go
Right.
on vacation all the time at the lake house,
Yeah.
right? Spirit has a wonderful way of using your frame of reference for everything. And so to your point, yeah, there's different personalities that we're speaking to, and they want to come through, they to validate for their loved one. This is who I am, and this is who I was, and I'm here.
Thank you. Can you
Welcome.
speak a little bit about the frame of reference you're describing? I do want to go back to people who are just, for example, receiving for themselves
Mm,
information, not necessarily now reading others. But when
yes.
I'm walking about in life and so we talked about asking for a sign, right? Is one way
Yes.
to know, am I on my path? Show me a butterfly.
Mhm.
That what kind of questions, I want to ask, what kind of questions can you ask in order to receive? But also, other ways in which spirit can communicate or our guides can communicate with us, if we can talk a little bit about that
Sure.
too.
Asking for signs can be a very yes or no question. Am I
Mhm.
on the right path? Are my loved ones around me? If you're around me, show me a cardinal. If you're around, I like to ask for unique signs. I've asked for like
Me too.
peacocks and weird things. If you are wanting to receive more guidance, you might want to lean on more of that meditation that we spoke about, and asking open ended questions in meditation and open ended questions in automatic writing. Automatic writing, receiving direct download energy from spirit. So you could pose a question at the top of the page. I'm trying to think of a good question. Is my career, is there more that I should be learning in my career? What,
Mm,
no,
that's
actually,
a good
what should I be learning in my career? Because when we want to ask open ended, and then allow the pen to just flow. And you should do this pen to paper, guys. Don't do it on your phones, and allow that to flow. The other thing that I do is, honestly, I really have very casual conversation with my guides. I will just say, dudes, what are we doing? What are you showing me? And I will hear them say, make the phone call, go here, turn left, make a right, in all the areas of life. What I would say to people is, remember, the biggest part about when you're looking for validation or trying to create some sort of communication with spirit for self guidance is, we are in a, again, we're in a position of receiving. Try not to reach for it. When you are paying attention to your intuitive abilities, which we all have, it will feel like a flow. And if you feel like you are meeting something with resistance, like you're forcing it, that's when we know maybe that's not for you. If we're making decisions that are fear based, doubtful, and or scarcity based, that's also more of that human self taking the lead. That's the ego getting in there. We want to feel something that, even though it might be pushing you out of your comfort zone, you still know that it's right.
right. You're
Hindsight is,
excited.
yes, hindsight is an amazing way to recognize what spirit sounds like.
Oh, I forget that. That's such a good one.
Yeah, I learned that one. You learned that one the hard way, right? I knew it. I
Right. I
said that
knew.
was going to happen.
But if
I
you
knew
then
that was
rewind and what is it that
rewind.
I heard? What
So
is it
you
that
can
I knew? How did
get,
that feel like?
that's right. If you can get a little ahead of your hindsight and pay attention to that voice, that initial voice that says, and I'm just using directions here for frame of reference, turn left. I really, wow, should I turn left? The mind is going to get in there and really want us to question. Just go with the flow.
Yeah.
Make the left. Make the left. Okay, I'm all right. All right, I'm trusting. I'm going to make the left. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll make it. That's how you get into the habit of hearing it. There's so many different ways, like I said, that you can have rituals, you can light candles, you can hold on to your crystals, you can burn some sage, just pulling cards, make it authentic to you. That's the biggest thing, because anything that you force practice wise, it's just going to feel like work. And it shouldn't feel like work. It should feel like an adventure. It should feel like fun. And remember too, you're getting to know them. They might know you, but just like in any relationship, you're getting to know them. And sometimes that takes a little time to build up trust, but they'll certainly give it to you if you keep asking. I've always asked my guides, show up, better show up for me, show up, show me, show me. And they're happy to do it. They're happy to work with you.
I think what's for me been a huge thing is understanding that it's people use the term co-creation, or that it's a process where I'm like, whenever I get in that reaching place, then I say, okay, I'm letting go of control. You show me. Of,
Yeah.
um, uh, and just as an example, you're just bringing this up, and I did want to share this with you, but just in on us meeting, because for me, it's like, it's what's magic is in this world. It's like the playground of you listen to that voice that said, sit on the bench, and then you meet a person who randomly comes across your way, and you're like, oh my God, you have these coincidences happen, synchronicities, and then you jump 10 steps forward in your journey of what you want to receive in this life, right?
Yeah.
Or experience. So just as an example of, and you were saying, find your own way. I went to sleep. This is 2 months ago. I went to sleep and I asked the guides, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but just, it was hard on me to create a meditation or to see something. I was like, just you guys lead me somewhere where you show me something in my meditation, that something I need to know, I think I said. And I just went into this deep meditation, just not in control, like for them to show. And I had this amazing, I think I was half asleep dream. And you came up in the dream. It had to do with this and creating a platform where I'm just interviewing teachers, learning as I go.
Mm.
And I think the next day, MaryAnn, you're like, really? You popped up in my thing. Yes. I don't know if you said dream. And I was like, this is crazy. Cause I
Yes,
literally,
they're showing off. They really do. Again, you're open to it. You're speaking it into existence. You're talking about it. You're curious about where they're taking you. Those lead to the most incredible manifestations. We can speak things into existence. We can own our role. We are co-creators with the universe. There is no I in team. So when you accept that, it is magical. I like fist pump my guides, no joke. Like, I'm like, you guys are so cool. Cause I'm like, oh my God, write out your manifestations, dream big, and then dream even bigger. They don't want you to, I recently was manifesting about certain things, and I was like making it very small. And I remember my guides are like, what are you doing? Go big. Trusting divine timing and trusting that you will be shown the passerby on that bench that's going to support you or be there for you or whatever it is. That's the hardest part. Is that we have to sit and receive that someone or something is going to show up that's going to lead us or help us on this to get to this manifestation. But when they show up, they show up big time.
I know, it's like
incredible.
It's
like incredible.
It's not even what you could have thought of how it would come to be. It's like better than anything.
Really, if somebody told me 15 years ago or whatever that I'd be doing this work in this way, I would think that's crazy. I just was happy to have appointments and learn. And I did have people read me and say, oh, I think this is going to go places for you. And you can go there in your mind, you want to dream, but there's something about being in the now, of learning how to receive. And we're just talking about spirituality in this sense, but even in your manifestations and what you're looking to do in your life, there's something about, why isn't this enough in this moment, in this now? I was speaking about this with a friend of mine. Enough is so good because we don't miss anything. We're not yearning for something. It doesn't mean we can't be tenacious and want different things, but it's icing on the cake to see those things come into fruition. And then we don't miss the steps, the learning steps in order to get there. So it's not easy though. I'm not very good at it. I can preach it, but I don't always, I'm human too. I want things yesterday, but I learned that the now is really great and your guides love you there. So that's another way actually of receiving guidance, of hearing it very clearly, is to try not to get too far ahead of yourself. Your mind will get in there. What if it doesn't happen? What if this? Just be in the moment
Right. Because
and
you're
you'll
also missing the information that's here in the moment for you
that's
to
right.
understand. If your mind
Mhm.
is somewhere else wandering, you're like not paying attention to actually what's here and now that's wanting.
Exactly. Exactly. You can miss the message and miss message. You can get it wrong in your mind.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything really wrong. It'll just take you longer to get there.
Yeah.
Maybe a few more lessons along the way.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. Okay. I wanted to talk about ego because you talk a lot about ego as well in the book. Now, I understand as Orly, I understand the ego part that's like the bravado, a person who's,
Yeah.
but there's also the opposite side. And I wanted, if you can explain that a little more, is like
Mm-hmm.
what the other side does as well. Because I think from my understanding too, I understand that when I'm receiving for others, when I actually put myself aside, that's how this all started for me. And my ego is totally in a different place. And that's where I was able to hear everything. So I know that
Yes.
as part of my process, I put ego aside intentionally. I'm like, okay, you quiet now. It's also a different part. But in okay, now I lost my train of thought. But in general, just that the ego, if you can
Yeah.
explain why what it gets in the way of actually.
Yeah. Ego is there to protect us, even when it's the bravado, because that part of ego is probably protecting the insecurity in someone, maybe, right?
Mhm.
Low self-esteem, whatever it may be. I'm not a therapist, but I can only imagine. The other part of ego is not, it's not during the reading that you are, it can happen during the reading, but the way you described it is I'm giving the messages, I'm separate, ego's over there in the corner, sitting in its, our mutual friend, Regina is sitting in the little corner, its little rocking chair. I love that analogy. And that's fine. We set it aside. It's after that reading, are you questioning? So the ego will come in and say, yeah, that reading wasn't really good enough.
Okay.
You did everything great, but boy, they didn't understand that one thing. Maybe that's oh, damn little ego, right? You're not worthy of that. That person's way better than you. You shouldn't be on that big platform like that. It's usually there to protect us. It means well, but it gets in the way of us. What it gets in the way of is that it is preventing us from really being in the flow of the energy. It interrupts the trust. So it's two steps forward, one step back. It always pulls us, wants us to sit down again. And it will continue to do that as you have growth. Because every time you get out of your comfort zone, at least for me, ego loves to get in there and be like, what are you doing here? Oh my God, what if this doesn't work out? What if this, it's a protector. When you realize that when you start to recognize the ego, I think I write this in the book, the way that I'm pretty sure this is the way I say it shudders. It doesn't know what to do. The more you recognize the ego coming in and saying, if you say, I really want to write a book, the ego might come in, oh, what are you going to write about? You don't have a story. What if it doesn't sell? It's that little
Right.
nudgy doubter friend who's like
Annoying.
coming in. Yeah, it's like coming in and being like, oh, it's like a Debbie Downer is the ego. But honestly, when you realize that there's somewhere, we go back to source, somewhere along the line, that ego came in to protect you from something, whether it be disappointment, fear, whatever. And that's when you could get to work with it. And so I edit it just like any other low vibration thought. We need it though. It's very useful.
It does protect sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when we learn, oh, thanks. Thanks for showing up, but I've got this. You can go
Yeah.
sit, take a load off ego. I'm gonna sit and work with this anyway. I'm gonna take a chance. I'm gonna take a leap. I trust, or whatever it is. These things are, this is the kind of stuff that I always tell people, don't try and spiritualize your way out of it. Try to understand it on a deeper level so that you can begin to work with it. And then it becomes a really powerful tool.
Yeah. We talked about it in the beginning, so it's the same thing. I guess
Yeah.
my thing was those limiting thoughts and beliefs that can get in the way and can
Yeah.
really make you like in that freeze mode, right? It's the flight or flight
Yes.
mode
And you're
of
not alone. The more you talk about the ego, the more you express yourself and you share with others too. Most people at some point in their lives feel this way, that they don't really understand why this intrusive thought of limited beliefs come in. And they don't, and when you realize, oh, this is just protection mode, this is just things that want to keep me in a safe space. It's you, maybe the ego becomes a little bit more endearing than it's a,
Yeah. I
than it
think that's
does.
the thing about discerning again between the different thoughts. When you realize that you have a bunch of different thoughts in your head, if you can take care of which ones are the ones that are actually my higher self or spirit trying to get through, it's always for me, it's light or I'd
Yeah,
love to hear
hires,
from you what
yes.
it what
I
it
love that
so
question.
they sound as opposed to ego. Like, what does ego sound like? So people can start to pay attention.
Your lower vibration self, ego, is filled with thoughts of it runs really from A to Z. There's a lot, but for the most part, it's doubt and fear based thoughts. It's indecisiveness. It's afraid of disappointment. It's everything that maybe activates you in life, scarcity and worrying and anxiety and stresses and the workday and the this. And we all have this lower vibration that's saying to you, it's not going to work out. And there's many reasons why that may be for one person. So many reasons because it's based on our own soul's experience. Your guides are helping you tap into higher self. And higher self is saying, what if it does work out? Higher self is saying, you know, you can do that. Higher self might say, slow down, take a day for yourself. It's okay. You deserve that. Higher self might say, not just yet, be patient. And that's okay. And that's enough. You are enough. We have our soul story within us, the whole soul, the whole story from A to Z, from birth to transition. The story lies within us. Your guides are helping you access that story. We came in, we signed up for things, good, bad,
In
and
advance,
indifferent.
like,
Absolutely. Soul contracts. So some of these roadblocks, we need that lower voice. The lower voice is helping us understand what it is that maybe we signed up for that we're looking to overcome. We just want to answer it with higher.
right.
The
Is it
higher
is
source is going to show you the path in order to resolve some of these lower vibrations.
in speaking of what you come in with, is it that my soul already knows perhaps what I want to experience here, but is it also set in stone what is going to happen to my can you
No,
explain a little bit about
it
that?
really depends on who you speak to. So this is how I feel about it
Okay.
and what I've downloaded about it.
Mhm.
I feel like we come into this realm with lessons to learn, contracts, soul packs, people that we learn with, people that we've traveled with lifetime after lifetime. How those lessons come into fruition, I don't know that we necessarily sign up for. That's just my own feeling on it. My own intuitive self says, I'm not really buying into signing up for some horrific experiences in order to learn a lesson. I just don't feel like that's how it works. Could you experience some really tough things in life in order to get to the lesson that you signed up for? Yeah, but I wonder, and the reason why I feel that way
Mhm.
is because free will is so strong that
Right.
that we're souls, human souls have such tremendous free will that if we can use that free will and accountability at the same time, we need that. We can't just blame the universe. Oh, I signed up for it. And so that's it. That's what I get. That's it. I get a bag of rocks. That's
Right.
not really
No.
how, or a bag of gold. That's not really how it is. I feel like there's different lessons. Take them one at a time, or sometimes you get thrown several at a time, and know that the experience itself is being provided for you. How are you going to answer it? How are you going to work through it? And sometimes it's just straight up free will that, and then unfortunately, some of those experiences can be really tough, and then some of them can be really extraordinary.
Yeah.
And you get to move into spaces of gratitude and wonderment and all these things. And I see that all the time too. It's just perspective. And that's just my intuitive download on it. There are other theories, but that one's mine.
That's great. I know I've been asking those kind of questions. I'm like, I feel like still under. That's another thing I think in these conversations is taking also what resonates for you, what
Mm-hmm.
you feel in your body. I think for me the most beautiful thing is I we can talk about this all day, but until a person actually experiences something for themselves viscerally, then you know it's true. So I think
Yeah.
I always love to listen to different perspectives, but until I actually gain my own truth or knowing, I feel like I can actually share that with others. Is like, and who knows?
Who
So,
knows? But I love that because what it points out is that even though we are spiritual beings, we are on earth and we
right.
do need to have one foot on the earthly ground. I see a lot of people trying to live in the ethereal, to
Mhm.
live this human life in the ethereal and raise your vibration. That is exhausting. It's like running a marathon every day. We have to have one foot in, one foot out. And I love that balance.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find that. And when we do that, I think we lean into bigger parts of acceptance for
Yeah.
self. We're like we take it a little easier on ourselves.
Yeah. It's also just like it feels like that's the whole purpose. You know, I some of my downloads I think I shared with you come a lot from actually
Mm-hmm.
to receive, right?
Yes.
And they talk all the time about it's not enough to stay up here. it's like to bring it into reality. It's you're bringing this into reality, moving forward. If you're not taking the steps and actually listening and moving forward, it just stays.
How
You
much
know?
can you sit and receive and try to float on a cloud? I think that's great for moments. And I think it's wonderful for moments, especially of downloads and hearing guidance. But where are we? Why? What is the purpose then of receiving that guidance if we ourselves are not utilizing it in our space and in our lives here? I learned the term spiritual bypassing a few years ago. And I think that I've always been the type of person, and even my first book is about how are we going to work through the roadblocks? We're not going to go around them. And having this beautiful tool of our connection to spirit will lead us to many modalities here that can help us. We just have to say yes to them. We just have to
Yeah.
say yes. And we have to just accept the fact that no matter what you're going through in your life and who you are as a soul, whether you've experienced really horrible things in your life or you just, I don't know, skipping on through this lifetime, you are deserving of hearing that light and that guidance to help you through. You're deserving of it and you can do it. You just have to say yes. And then you have to act on it, like you're saying.
Yeah. I think it makes, because I had a big question, like, why do all of this work? It's a little confusing sometimes in the brain. I'm like,
Did you
what?
find out? Did you get an answer? If you get an answer, let me know
I mean,
because
my only answer is that it does help life live more with
it
ease.
does. It does. It helps life live more with ease. And I think there's something about what the soul needs to learn in order to help the universe after we leave this space. I really feel like
Wait, can
we
you
become,
repeat that, MaryAnn? That was like,
yes. Oh, yeah. You want me
like,
to do it?
yeah, yeah.
I feel that there's something about, yes, learning it for this life here to live a better life, a more productive life, learning and understanding what these lessons are. But there's something about the soul healing after transition that I think we bring something new to the universe to
Gosh, I'm
help,
feeling that.
to help whatever's going on that other side. What that answer is, I don't think we're supposed to know. I think there's a mystery of faith for a reason. So I think we just have to trust that source knows what it's doing. God knows what they're doing. And we are here to be a worker. And there's a reason behind it that's going to be incredibly beneficial, not only to our soul, but to others on the other side. And here too, because when you're learning, I hope you're teaching. I always say what I learn, I teach. What I experience, I give, because I think paying it forward is really, and that's not always, and I am, does not to say I'm a spiritual, so I'm not a saint. I'm not always getting it right. But even those tough, hard moments, I want to tell people about, and I want them to learn about moments that haven't been always so wonderful in my life or when I haven't made the greatest decisions, because I think people get the wrong idea when you do this work that you're just figuring it all out. No, we're all gritty and getting in there and doing it.
Yeah.
The fun
I
part.
love
Yes.
it.
It's supposed to be fun. I
Yeah,
think it's fun.
it is. I think all part of,
Miraculous too. This earth is
yes,
miraculous.
it
So
is
we have to
incredible.
pay attention to, how incredible it is here.
Yeah. I think by doing that too is passing the message on. If you've experienced something, I don't know, for me, it's, when I first communicated with my dad after he passed, that's when I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, why isn't everybody doing this? Like, why didn't I ever learn this? What
Yeah.
the heck? So part of me wanting to share is also, okay, I want to really break this down until how do we, but honestly, everyone talks about this, been talking about this for centuries, and all the religious teachings, they're just having their different way of explaining it.
Putting out more and more.
Yeah.
And so I get really excited at the prospect of this becoming more and more mainstream. And I'm gratefully and humbly put in a position where I can share what I'm learning and what I'm receiving from spirit. And I'm able to write it in a book and hope that it sounds
Yeah.
down to earth and normal. I think that this is becoming a theme. And for me, the more the merrier. Get it out there. If you feel like you want to experience this, and by taking classes, like I said, or reading books and having chat groups with others in whatever form, the more we talk about it, the more we understand that it is something that lives with all of us. And to your point, I think we were just taught to forget it through different types of religions or whatever. And I'm not knocking organized religion in any way, but I'm just saying, I think it was just something that kind of we forgot about. And now we're starting to see this resurge of people really interested
I
in
know
what
how all the
exactly is
physics,
going on. Yes,
it's like you're getting all the answers, but through science. I'm like, okay,
There it is. And the thing too, Orly, is, and what I've been telling people is it's fun to go down these rabbit holes. Please do. I think it's a great place to explore. But my guides have told me it really doesn't matter. Don't let it be a distraction from your work. That
Mm.
this information is so much fun and I have tons of frames of reference for it and I love a good rabbit hole, believe me. But they often bring me back to focus so that I don't get too distracted. They're like, "Yeah, that's nice and you can keep exploring and have fun with it, but remember what your mission is." And they'll always lead me right back to where I need to
Yeah.
be.
And you have a mission. You even write about it in the book, like the mission statement of what
Yeah.
I think I have to write myself a new one, or
Everyone should
just,
write their mission
yes,
statement, whether you're a spiritualist or not, because this kind of work isn't for people that just want to be psychic mediums. This is for everybody
right.
in whatever area of life you're in. Doesn't really matter. Anybody can do this, and whatever you're looking to do in life, whatever your work is, it doesn't matter. Write down your mission statement, whether it's something that you want to give off personally or professionally. In relationships, you can write mission statements for, and mind for work. It's very much about waking them up, teaching the masses, and just showing people that this is really normal and that we don't have to sensationalize it and that you yourself have access and the abilities to connect with spirit anytime you want.
It's just you connecting to your soul when you're writing that down. It's like
Yeah.
what your soul wants, that inner, that light, or
What your
that
soul
spirit.
knows,
Yeah.
what it
Oh,
knows to
so
be
good.
true. Yeah, it's good.
Can I just what is one last question in terms of, if was it hard for you to come and speak out like I speak? For me, it's so freeing that now I'm able to just, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a psychic medium. But that's taken a lot in my process. I'm wondering for you, how was it for you to come out of
Spiritual closet.
yeah.
It was difficult at certain times and easy at others. So when I told my mom what I was doing, she was thrilled, right? I might as well have told her I was going to be a brain surgeon. She was like, "This is incredible," right? She loved it. Others, it took time for me because I think I was at that time, I was young and I was really engrossed in judgment and what other people thought. So it was hard. I used to tell people, "Oh, I'm like getting into spirituality." I used to dance around it. I'm getting into
Yeah.
spirituality a little bit. And maybe I'll do some like spiritual teaching. I didn't know what I was saying. And then one day I just decided to start owning it. The more I owned it, the better it felt. The more I spit it out, my truth, and unapologetically, the better it felt. So that feeling got me to keep saying it. And then I got to the point where you're at, where I was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm a psychic medium." And actually seeing people's reactions was fun. So I was entertained by it as well.
There's another not that I'm going around, like, saying, 'cause I'm still trying to the fine line of, I don't know, people, I guess, hear it, but sometimes it's like I see the thing that I experienced my whole life anyway, which is people stepping back, being like, "Oh, now she knows all about me," or something, or
I get that
I
all the time. I still people see me and they're like, "Are you reading me right now?" And I'm no, I'm like on the spin bike. Like I'm not looking at you at all. And I think I've gotten so used to it that I've had people avoid me in the supermarket aisles. Like I can see, I find it humorous, but I understand it as well. Not everybody's ready for this. And this is a really good point, actually. Not everybody wants to be read. Not
Oh,
everybody wants you to walk up to them and start saying, "Hey, I'm so open." And I think that's the impression that people get. "Hey, I'm hearing something for you." Because of what we see on television and all these things, there's a responsibility behind this work. And it quiets the judgment when I lean into why I'm doing this work
mhm.
and what it means to do this work, which is we have people's feelings in our hands. We should be very trained in this, know what we're doing, really understand our abilities, understand how to deliver messages with care, concern, compassion, not scaring people out there. And so I think you just have people that are fearful. But once you start owning it, I just send them love. I'm like, I hope they're okay. They probably think I'm like seeing their
Yeah.
dead
Which I
grandmother around them.
Yeah, which is interesting because you talk about it, but I also realize it's not like it is an opening. I call it an opening where I'm like, I'm opening now. It's the
Yes.
boundaries you talk about in the book
Boundaries.
where it's okay, I'm not gonna walk around now and have all
And you shouldn't.
right.
You shouldn't for two reasons. We have open and closed hours, just like any other business. But you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be just randomly reading people. I think it's not only can be hurtful to the person if you are doing it haphazardly like that, but you can really hurt yourself. You could really drain yourself. You get messages that maybe aren't quite clear and can be misinterpreted. And I had to learn this the hard way too. I wasn't always respectful of that. I used to think it was fun and maybe somebody wanted to receive a message. And I learned early on that reading a lot, overreading, and really
Mhm.
reading people when they're not prepared, or I've been the brunt of a lot of jokes at a lot of parties. And I asking, oh, come on, show me what you can do. The ego can get in there and be like, I'll show you what I can do, but it's better to just have your boundaries, hours of operation, and only read when you're called to read. If someone
Right.
obviously is sitting with you, and if you really feel like you have a message for somebody, please ask permission before you deliver that message, and ask yourself, will this message serve? Is this something that this person can really use in their life? It's very important because I've had to undo some bad readings where people have come to me really frightened. So you want to be really careful. And I think that's, as psychic mediums, people out there, we see a lot of this now. And there's so many people on TikTok and everybody's reading, and it's so great. But let's be really clear and let's be really responsible in how we're doing that so that we don't scare anybody,
Yeah. Thank you. That's really
and
important.
and preserve your own energy.
Yeah.
Very important because it could be very draining.
Yeah. Which is also perhaps why this is, I don't know, it's been kept like the secret language, I want to say, or secret language, because there's so much you need to, it's working with someone's energy and respecting
Yeah. And
the
respecting their
energy.
energy. And if you don't know how to, like we talked about before, understanding what maybe that person is feeling or what they're
Mm.
experiencing, and learning how to pay attention to those different vibrations. I teach this a lot because it's going to help you in delivering a positive message out of something that might feel heavy.
Yeah.
Learning, understand how to give that over in a hopefully a productive and caring way.
That's amazing. Thank you, Marian. I just want to end with, because it's a thought that I'm having in regards to spirit also guiding you to the right people. And so for me, also as a reader, sometimes I just give it, like I said I'm like, okay, whoever needs, I
Mm.
trust spirit that they're going to bring that person to. And it's just miraculous too to see how things come about. I'm like, this is so cool. When I, again, let go of the control. So,
Yeah.
just an
Yeah.
ending in that I'm just for
Bring
you have come into my life is
Listen, I asked for students who really wanted to be invested and wanted to learn and were willing to open themselves up and surrender over and trust. And they brought me you. You're one of those people for me. And on this end, I asked too, show me who they are, show me who I can make connection with,
so
and that spirit can help out. And I continue to do that all the time. And so I'm blessed to have had you with me and still have you with me. And I'm so grateful.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Marianne. I think we forget that there's another again, that other side. It's not just about me and what I'm doing. There's the other side. So it's just so
Yeah,
cool.
I'm journeying too.
Thank you so much.